හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Wednesday, the 11th of October 2023. Debt break. President stresses that maintaining income surplus is paramount to breaking the debt cycle. India assistance. Indian Foreign Minister calls on the President. 3 new agreements inked between India and Sri Lanka.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to you from AdaDerana's English News First at 9. I'm Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at our top story for this evening. Augmenting revenue streams through both goods and services by creating a competitive economy while fostering a sustainable green economy and advancing the digital economy will be the modus operandi for Sri Lanka to break free from the debt cycle. This was the message that President Ranil Wickremesinghe gave during the inauguration of the National Information Technology and Business Process Management Professional Exhibition at BMICH today. The President reiterated that taking loans to repay loans is a cycle that needs to be broken, and enhancing the competitiveness of the economy will ensure a surplus from the sale of goods and services that will help Sri Lanka eradicate its foreign debt. The National Information Technology and Business Process Management Professional Exhibition at BMICH opened today. Commencing the National IT and BPM Week, the exhibition will be held from the 11th to the 13th of October at the Sirimavo Bandaranaike Memorial Exhibition Hall at the BMICH in Colombo. The exhibition, aimed at accelerating Sri Lanka's transition to a digital economy, seeks to provide insights into new technology, promote skill development, offer career guidance, and create avenues for IT entrepreneurship. It is expected to benefit school students, university students, vocational education candidates, job seekers and aspiring entrepreneurs in the Western Province.
අපේ රට අද ආර්ථිකය කඩා වැටිලා ගොඩ ගන්න වෙලාව. ආර්ථික ස්ථාවරභාවයක් ඇති කරන්න මදි. අපි ඊට පස්සේ ගත්තේ ණය ආපහු ගෙවන්න ඕනේ. අපිට වැඩි කාලයක් හම් වෙන ණය ගෙවන්න. අපිට ඕන බඩු භාණ්ඩ ගන්න තියෙනවා. ඒවට අපි ගෙවන්න තියෙනවා. ඒ ගෙවන්න තරම් මුදල් අපිට නැහැ විදේශ විනිමයේ. අපිට ආපහු ණය ගන්න තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි ණය චක්‍රයේ ඉන්නවද නැත්නම් ණය චක්‍රයෙන් අයින් වෙලා ඉදිරියට යනවද කියන එක තමයි අපිට බලන්න තියෙන්නේ. විශේෂයෙන්ම ඉතා තරඟකාරී ආර්ථිකයකින් ලෝක වෙළඳපොළ ගමන් කළා. එහෙන් අපිට ලැබෙන ආදායම වෙළඳ භාණ්ඩ වලින් සේවා වලින් වැඩි කරගෙන අපි අතිරික්තයක් තියාගන්න ඕනේ. මේ වැඩසටහනේ ප්‍රධාන අංගයක් තමයි අපේ ආර්ථිකයේ නවීකරණය. ඒ ඩිජිටල් ආර්ථිකයෙන් අපි ඉදිරියට යනවා නම් අපිට කරුණු ගණනාවක් අපුරන් තිබෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම IT පිළිබඳ දැනුමක් තියෙන, පුහුණුවක් තියෙන, අධ්‍යාපනයක් තියෙන මිනිස් බල පිරිසක් නැත්නම්. ඒ සඳහා අපේ අලුත් විශ්වවිද්‍යාල පද්ධතියක් පටන් ගන්නවා. ඒකට විශ්වවිද්‍යාලය ගණනාවක් ඇති කරන්න යනවා. ආණ්ඩුවෙන්වත් විශ්වවිද්‍යාල 3ක් ඇති කරනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම කොතලාවල ආරක්ෂක විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ ක්‍රමවේදය අනුව. ඒ වගේම රජයේ නොවන විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ඉද දෙනවා. දෙවනුව දැන් තියෙන වෘත්තීය පුහුණු මධ්‍යස්ථාන 450 අපි මධ්‍යස්ථාන එකතු කරලා වෘත්තීය විද්‍යාල 150 200ක් විතර ආරම්භ කරන්න. කාර්මික පුහුණුවත් ඒ වගේම ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණය කරනවා. අනාගතයේ තියෙන්නේ මధుරත්නායක මහත්මයා කිව්ව හැටියට මේ ශාස්ත්‍රය. හරිත ශාස්ත්‍රය. ඉතින් මේ දෙකට අපි යනවා. අපිට වී නැති වුණාම අපි කුරුඳු ගන්නවා. කුරුඳු නැති වුණාම අපි කෝපි ගන්නවා. කෝපි නැති වුණාම තේ රබර් පොල් දැම්මා. දැන් අපි සංචාරක ව්‍යාපාරයයි ඇඟලුම් කර්මාන්තයයි දැම්මා. දැන් මේ ඔක්කොම හිටි අතීතයට. අපි අනාගතයට යන්න. අනාගතේ ඔබේ මගේ නෙමෙයි. තව අලුත් තත්ත්වයක් තියෙනවා. මුළු නැගෙනහිර ආසියාව, ජපානයේ, චීනයේ, දකුණු කොරියාව. මේ රටවල ජනගහනය ශීඝ්‍රයෙන් අඩු වෙනවා. එහෙනම් මේ වැඩ කටයුතු ගණනාවක් අපේ රටවල් කරන්න පුළුවන්.
While the war between Israel and Hamas militants continue to escalate, the Ministry of Labour and Foreign Employment has decided to temporarily suspend Sri Lankan migrant workers into Israel. Speaking to the media today, Subject Minister Manusha Nanayakara confirmed that any person who wants to come back home can do so since the war has not affected the airport or areas in close proximity. The war between Israel and Hamas militants have so far claimed the lives of over 2,000 people on both sides, including Red Crescent paramedics and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees personnel. Fighting between Israelis and the Hamas continues as airstrikes and heavy artillery strikes pound Gaza in the aftermath of the Hamas attack on Israel. Gaza has been completely cut off by Israel, and as a result of the complete blockade, the area is without power, water, food supply and medical supply amidst continuous bombardment. All supplies are diminishing since there are no open emergency or humanitarian corridors for any kind of aid to enter the Gaza Strip. On Wednesday morning, Hamas said 30 people were killed in overnight strikes. In total, more than 1,000 Gazans have died in the retaliatory airstrikes. Israel's military concurrently confirmed that they had hit 450 targets in the Gaza Strip in the past 24 hours. The airstrikes began after Hamas militants provoked the attack after they crossed into Israel and launched a wave of attacks on civilian towns and communities across the south of the country, killing at least 1,200 Israelis with an estimated 150 people taken hostage by the Hamas. Bodies of Israeli residents and Hamas attackers lay outside burned-out homes in the Israeli kibbutz Kfar Aza, days after the Palestinian militant group launched a large-scale surprise assault on Israel.
Right now we are in kibbutz Kfar Aza. They continue to remove some of the Israeli bodies that were killed. One of the commanders here said at least 40 babies were killed. Some of them their heads cut off. He said he's never seen acts of brutality like this. This isn't a battleground. This was not soldiers fighting against other soldiers. These were terrorists.
The Palestinian Red Crescent, meanwhile, said 4 of its paramedics have been killed in Israeli air attacks. The Palestinian Red Crescent said that 3 of them died when an air raid inadvertently hit an ambulance of the Red Crescent north of Gaza, and the 4th was killed in a separate incident in the east of the enclave. According to the United Nations, over a tenth of the population in Gaza, over 260,000 people, have been displaced since the start of the current conflict on the 7th of October, with numbers steadily rising. More than 175,000 people are sheltering in schools operated by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East, which has some 13,000 staff in the enclave. UNRWA today reported that the death toll among its employees had also risen to 9. Taking heavy fighting between Israeli forces and Hamas militants into account, the Ministry of Labour and Foreign Employment has decided to temporarily suspend Sri Lankan migrant workers going into Israel.
ඇතැම් ප්‍රදේශවල තමයි මේ ගැටුම් ඇති වෙන්නේ. අනෙක් ප්‍රදේශවල අයට තමන් කැමති නම් ලංකාවට එන්න අවශ්‍ය පහසුකම් සලසන්නත් අපි කටයුතු සූදානම් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම ලංකාවෙන් දැනටත් යන්න තියෙනවා තව අය. ඒ අයව දැනට අපි తాවකාලිකව නතර කරගෙන ඉන්නවා. ඒ අයත් සමග සාකච්ඡා කරගෙන මොකද්ද කරන්න කියලා. දිනෙක පිළිබඳව අපිට ඉතාමත්ම කනගාටුදායක තොරතුරු ලැබෙමින් පවතින ඊශ්‍රායලයේ පැත්තෙන් අපිට පණිවිඩ ලබා දෙන්නේ දැන් බිය යුතු නැති කාරණාවක් තියෙන දැන් ඒ පැත්තට ප්‍රහාර එල්ල වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක තමයි අපේ අයගේ ආරක්ෂාව සම්බන්ධයෙන් වුන් බොහෝ වෙලාවට අපිට සහතික වෙනවා. එන්න කැමති ඕනෑම කෙනෙකුට මේ වෙලාවේ ගුවන් තොටුපළට ඇවිල්ලා කිසිම කෙනෙක්ගේ සහයෝගය නැතුව වුණත් එන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද මේ ප්‍රදේශවල ගුවන් තොටුපළ තියෙන ප්‍රදේශවල ආරක්ෂාව පිළිබඳව ගැටලුවක් නැහැ. ඒ අයට එන්න පුළුවන්.
At the 23rd Council of Ministers meeting of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, or IORA, which was held in Colombo, the member states have agreed on who the host of the Leaders Summit next year in Colombo will be. Addressing the Council of Ministers meeting, Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri said that the member states can enhance cooperation in various fields, including investment promotion, trade and investment facilitation, maritime safety and security, by working together.
In his opening remarks at the 23rd meeting of the Indian Ocean Rim Association Council of Ministers, Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri said that by working together, IORA states can enhance cooperation in the areas of investment promotion, maritime safety and security, and trade and investment facilitation. Further, cooperation can be enhanced in the areas of fisheries management, disaster risk management, tourism and cultural exchanges, academic, scientific and technological cooperation, a blue economy and women's economic empowerment, thereby assuring the sustainable development and well-being of the people in the region and those beyond. The fact that the organization had sought to build and expand understanding and mutually beneficial cooperation through a consensus-based, evolutionary and non-intrusive approach was highlighted. Minister Sabri went on to say that if the member states work with commitment in the furtherance of these values, IORA could be a conduit to enhance maritime safety and security in the Indo-Pacific region. This will further be accomplished in the exercise of freedom of navigation and overflight in accordance with international law, including the Charter of the United Nations and the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, thereby positively contributing to the maintenance of peace and stability and greater prosperity for all. Meanwhile, this afternoon, the media was briefed following the conclusion of the IORA Council of Ministers meeting.
During our Council of Ministers meeting, we reviewed the progress of IORA Action Plan for 2022-2027 and identified new areas for collaboration. Sri Lanka, as a member of the international community, attach a great deal of importance to multilateralism and believe that collective action and partnering with others is the way to resolve problems and address issues. Our approach is that diplomacy is the key to address difficult issues. We also contemplate hosting a summit of leaders of IORA member states next year, which we suggested at the senior official level meeting, which was adopted by the Council of Ministers.
India views IORA as a platform for promoting sustainable development, economic growth, and prosperity and stability in the region. As the Vice Chair of IORA, India will work on consolidating and streamlining efforts to promote cooperation in the realms of the 6 priority areas and the 2 cross-cutting themes of the IORA, with particular emphasis on maritime safety and security and the blue economy. The apex regional body of this region, India will work towards further strengthening the regional identity and cooperation among IORA member states, dialogue partners, and specialized groups, and for the well-being and prosperity of the Indian Ocean community.
Bangladesh considers IORA as a very appropriate and competent platform to enhance understanding, cooperation, and collective action on a number of issues that are at the core of the member states. That had prompted Bangladesh remain a strong supporter of the IORA initiatives and commends its achievements over the last 25 years.
This event in Sri Lanka is considered a success. In terms of the attendance, we are very great to know that all of the member states and dialogue partners are represented at the high-level official. India will draw roadmap of the implementation of the IORA Indo-Pacific Outlook in the near future.
India and Sri Lanka signed 3 new bilateral agreements, including education, housing and agriculture, aimed at enhancing cooperation between both countries. The signing was made during the meeting between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and India's Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, at the Presidential Secretariat today. In a bid to improve the lives of Sri Lankan citizens, India has committed to providing additional funds for the speedy completion of 9 development projects in the country, which are currently sponsored by the Government of India. During the discussions between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and India's Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, extensive discussions were held to further strengthen Indo-Sri Lankan relations, resulting in the signing of 3 new bilateral agreements aimed at enhancing cooperation between both countries. Further, the inauguration of the 3rd phase of the housing project, supported by Indian loan assistance, was conducted during the meeting. According to the President's Media Division, to uplift the lives of Sri Lankan citizens, the Government of India has committed to providing additional funds for the speedy completion of 9 development projects in the country, which are currently supported by the Government of India. The relevant agreement for this initiative was also signed today. These projects include the modernization of 27 schools in the northern province, housing initiatives in Manna and Anuradhapura, improvements to the Hatton Thondaman Vocational Training Centre, and Putselava Saraswati Central College, and the construction of a multi-ethnic trilingual school in Polonnaruwa. Further, the establishment of 2,889 rainwater harvesting projects in the Jaffna area, the promotion of vegetable cultivation in the Dambula area, and the construction of greenhouse facilities with a capacity of 5,000 metric tons for fruit preservation were also included in the agreement. Additionally, a new surgical unit for the Barriglow Teaching Hospital will be promptly built as part of these efforts. An agreement concerning a joint project involving the Indian National Dairy Development Board, the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation of India, and the Cargill's Group of Sri Lanka was signed with the aim of elevating Sri Lanka's local dairy industry. The primary objective of this new project is to increase milk production by 53% within the first 5 years and achieve self-sufficiency in milk production for Sri Lanka within 15 years. In other news, the Asian Development Board delegation team, who is currently visiting Sri Lanka, has expressed their interest towards financially supporting projects during the next 5 years at their meeting with Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at Temple Trees yesterday. During the discussion, the Prime Minister also briefed the financial institution team regarding the steps taken by the government for structural reforms, agricultural growth, and relaxation of regulations to attract foreign investments in all sectors of economy. During the discussions held with Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena yesterday, the delegation team of the Asian Development Bank expressed satisfaction over Sri Lanka's quick stabilization of the economy after last year's crisis. According to a statement issued by the Prime Minister's office, officials of the ADB said that the bank would favorably respond to proposed new projects on digitalization and IT, public transport, human resource development and education, water and small and medium enterprise development. While expressing his gratitude to the Global Financing Institute, the Prime Minister also briefed about steps taken by the government for structural reforms, agricultural growth and relaxation of regulations to attract foreign investments in all sectors of economy. He urged the Regional Funding Agency to initiate new projects on areas such as renewable energy, digitalization and public transport systems with special attention on railways. ADB Team Leader, Executive Director Chantal Wong and Executive Director for Sri Lanka, Sangbin Ryu, briefed the Prime Minister about the ADB's mid-term and long-term projects for economic progress and infrastructure development. The ongoing projects cover areas such as public financial management and governance, foster private sector development and improve access to public services and deep inclusion, social protection, equitable access, health, climate and agriculture modernization. ADB Country Director Takafumi Kodono said that the ADB governing board members would study the progress of projects and inquire into areas of future projects during the visit in Sri Lanka. The rapid spread of a medical eye condition called conjunctivitis has been reported from several parts of the country, with threatening impact on the health of the general public. That said, the Ministry of Health has outlined some necessary safety measures in the following video package in a bid to minimize the infection of the disease. It was further confirmed, however, that the eye disease poses no health threat and is most likely to improve within a span of 3 to 4 days. Conjunctivitis, or the pink eye, is a common eye disease which is currently seeing a spike within the country. The condition can be easily spread from one individual to another. Doctors predict that the disease is often spread by tears and related secretions of an infected person. Accordingly, redness in one or both eyes, itchiness in the eyes, increased tear production, headaches, sensitivity to light and dry eyes are several symptoms of the aforementioned eye disease. As a result, the general public have been urged to follow necessary safety measures in a bid to reduce infection.
සබර්දා පිරිසුදු කර ගැනීම, සැනිටයිසර්ස් භාවිතය, සිප වැළඳ ගැනීම වලින් ඈත් වී සිටීම, අතට අත දීමෙන් වැළකීම වැනි රෝග වළක්වා ගැනීමේ ක්‍රමයක් අනුගමනය කිරීමෙන් මෙය අපිට වළක්වා ගන්නට පුළුවන්. පොදු ප්‍රවාහනය පාවිච්චි කරනවා නම් පුළුවන් තරම් අල්ලගෙන යන තැන් ඒවා යම් හේකින් ස්පර්ශ කරන්න සිදු වුණොත් සැනිටයිසර් එකක් භාවිත කරනකොට නැත්නම් අත සබන් දාලා හොදන්න. නරකම දේ තමයි ඇස් කැසුවොත් හෝ එවැනි දෙයක් කරොත් තමයි ඒ වෛරසය එතනින් අපේ රේෂ්මලය තුලින් ඇහැට ඇතුල් වීම සිදුවන්නේ. එය වළක්වා මේ
ඇස් ලෙඩ දරුවාගේ ශ්වසන ආබාධ සමග සම්බන්ධතාවයක් තියෙන බව පේනවා. රෝග ලක්ෂණ බොහොමයක් දවස් 7ක් ඇතුළත ක්‍රමක්‍රමයෙන් අඩු වෙලා යනවා. ඒත් සමහර දරුවන්ට ඒ කළු ඉංග්‍රීසියාවට මේ වෛරස් එක බලපෑමක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ මගින් ඇසේ පෙනුමට හානිකර තත්ත්වයක් ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ නිසා රෝග ලක්ෂණ දවස් 5කට වඩා තියෙනවා නම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අක්ෂි වෛද්‍යවරයෙක් හම්බ වෙලා ප්‍රතිකාර ගත යුතුයි.
Warning was made that the risk of spread of infection is greatly amplified with the prevailing rains and wet weather being experienced. This is manifest in the large number of reported cases that have been reported in several areas in the Colombo district that experienced heavy rains lately. Several classes have already been cancelled due to the spread of conjunctivitis or pink eye among several children at the Kotahena Central College.
පසුගිය සතියේ බ්‍රහස්පතින්ද වෙනකොට රෝගේ වැළඳුණු දරුවෝ 40ක් විතර 6-4 ශ්‍රේණියෙන් හොයාගන්න පුළුවන් වුණා. හැබැයි සිකුරාදා දිනෙත් ළමයි 30ක් විතර අක්ෂි රෝගයට ලක් වෙච්ච දරුවෝ හිටියා. ඒකට සමුදත් හිටියා ළමයි 35ක් විතර අක්ෂි රෝගේ වැළඳුණා. ඊට පස්සේ පළාත් අධ්‍යාපන දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ උපදෙස් මත 6, 7, 8 ශ්‍රේණි මේ දවස් 4 පවත්වන්නේ නැහැ.
As such, the Ministry of Health has requested the general public to avoid sending their children to schools if the aforementioned symptoms are manifest.
ඔබේ දරුවාගේ එක හැක හෝ ඇස් දෙකේම මෙම රෝග ලක්ෂණ ඇති වුණොත් දරුවව ගෙදර තියාගන්න. මොකද පාසලට යැවීමෙන් තවත් දරුවන්ට එය බෝවීමේ හැකියාවක් තිබෙන නිසා. මේ කොහෙත්ම භයානක තත්වයක් නොවේයි. මේ තත්වය ඉබේම දවස් 3ක් 4ක් කියන කාල සීමාව තුළ පහව යනවා.
Welcome back. The National Medicines Regulatory Authority says that it has filed a complaint with the Criminal Investigation Department about a company that imported drugs to Sri Lanka by preparing fake documents under pretense that they were issued by the NMRA itself. The issue arose with the supply of the immunoglobulin drug that had been imported by this particular pharmaceuticals company. Its officials, while holding a press conference today, stated that although their authority has been continuously accused of importing substandard drugs into the country, they have no authority in the purchasing of those drugs.
අපි දැක්ක මාස කිහිපයක් පුරා මේ ආයතනයේට බරපතල චෝදනාවන් එල්ල කරමින් බරපතල ලෙස පහර ගැසීමක් සිද්ධ වුණා දිගින් දිගටම. හැම ප්‍රශ්නයකටම මුල ඖෂධ නියාමන අධිකාරිය කියලා. මේක වැරදි තත්ත්වයක්. මේ ඖෂධ මිලදී ගැනීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඖෂධ නියාමන අධිකාරියට කිසිම බලයකුත් නැහැ. කිසිම සම්බන්ධයකුත් නැහැ. ඇතැම් ඖෂධ වල සංකූලතාවයන් නිසා රෝගීන් කිහිප දෙනෙක් මිය ගියා. ඒ ගැන අතිශය කනගාටු වෙනවා අපි මේ රටේ පුරවැසියන් විදියට. හැබැයි ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ මේ ඖෂධ ටික අපි ගෙනාවේ නැත්නම් කොවිඩ් වලට වඩා මිනිස්සු මැරෙනවා මේ රටේ. අපිට දෙන ආධාර මත යැපෙන්න සිද්ධ වුණා. තෙල් වගේම ඖෂධත්. ඉතින් මේ තත්ත්වයන් වලදී තමයි මේ හදිසි මිලදී ගැනීම වලට සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය ගියේ. එතෙන්දී ඖෂධ නියාමන අධිකාරිය විදිහට අපිට සිද්ධ වුණා. ඒ සාමාන්‍ය පටිපාටියෙන් බැහැර වෙලා මේවට අවසර ලබා දෙන්න. වර්තමානයේ ඇති වෙලා දෙන අලුත්ම කාරණේ. දැන් ඔය කියන එක්තරා සමාගමක් විසින් ඉමුනෝග්ලෝබින් කියන ඖෂධ ගෙන්වීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් ප්‍රශ්නයක් මතුවුණා. දැන් මෙතනදී අපි ඉතා පැහැදිලිවම ප්‍රධාන විධායක නිලධාරියාගේ අස්සන සහ සීල් ව්‍යාජ ලෙස යොදාගෙන තමයි මේක කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
මේ තමයි අදාළ සමාගම ව්‍යාජ ලෙස පාවිච්චි කරපු සීල් එක. තනතුරට උඩින් සුදුසු කල් ලියන්නේ නැහනේ නමකුත් නැතුව. ඔව් එතකොට මේ අස්සන ගැනත් මට සැකයක් තියෙනවා.
මේ ගෙනාපු මේක ඉන්දියන් සමාගම මේ බේත ගෙනාවද? නමුතුමා ඒ සමාගමත් එක්ක කතා කරලා බැලුවද?
මේ සමාගම ලයිව් හෙල්ත් කියලා සමාගමක් තමයි සඳහන් වෙන්නේ මේ කුප්පිවල මේ පිට කවරේ මේ මැනුෆැක්චරර් හැටියට. ඉතින් අපි අර මේක දැනගත්තු වහාම මම කිව්වේ ගිය සතියේ මැද හරියේ දැනගත්තු ගමන්ම මුලින්ම කරපු එක කාරණාවක් තමයි ඒ ලීගල් මැනුෆැක්චරර් කියලා අපි කියන්නේ. එයාට කතා කරා ඉන්දියාවේ සමාගමක්. ඒගොල්ලන්ට අපි ඊමේල් මගින් කමියුනිකේට් කරා. විනාඩි 15ක් යනකොට අපිට ඒ අය උත්තරයක් දුන්නා. උත්තරේ තමයි මෙවැනි ඖෂධයක් කිසිම විටකදී කිසිම කලකදී ලංකාවට හෝ වෙනත් රටකට හෝ ඒගොල්ලෝ එක්ස්පෝර්ට් කළත් නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ අපනයනය කළත් නැහැ. එවැනි ඖෂධයක් ඒ අය නිෂ්පාදනය කරන්නෙත් නැහැ.
ඉතින් බලන්න මොන තරම් භයානක තත්ත්වයක්ද කියලා අපිට උදා වෙනවා.
අනිවාර්යෙන් මිනිස්සු ජීවිතත් එක්ක සෙල්ලම් කිරීම පිළිබඳව මේ සමාගමට සම්බන්ධ සියලු දෙනා වහාම අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්න කියලා තමයි අපි පොලිසියෙන් ඉල්ලලා තියෙන්නේ, පැමිණිල්ලෙන් ඉල්ලලා තියෙන්නේ ප්‍රමාද නොවි.
The Government Medical Officers Association staged a demonstration this afternoon in front of the Ministry of Health as they continue their gripe with regards to their several demands. However, demonstrations took a tense turn when the police riot control unit intervened to maintain peace among the protesters, which resulted in traffic congestion. A protest was staged near the Colombo National Hospital this afternoon by the Government Medical Officers Association in a bid to meet several demands, including the ratification of the independence of the Medical Officers Transfer Board and the removal of several taxes they deem unfair. Following the launch of the protest, the police riot control unit and the Sri Lanka Army was deployed at the site.
අපි ඉල්ලන්නේ වෛද්‍යවරුන්ට සාධාරණය වෛද්‍යවරුන්ට යුක්තිය වෛද්‍යවරුන්ට ආර්ථික යුක්තිය ඉෂ්ට කරන්න කියන කාරණයත් එක්ක.
Later, the medical officers participating in the protest headed towards the Ministry of Health. A tense situation was reported when the police resisted the protesters marching antagonistically whilst protesting. Nevertheless, medical officers defiantly continued their demonstration in front of the Ministry of Health amidst the tensions. However, a tense situation arose between the protesters and the police riot control unit as the area was cordoned off in anticipation of any potential violence. The Colombo Stock Exchange closed lower today following losses in financial and consumer staple stocks. The CSE All-Share Price Index closed down 1.3% at 10,675.30 points, while the S&P SL20 settled down 1.43% at 2,997.86 points. Sri Lanka Telecom PLC and LLC Finance PLC were the top losers on the CSE, falling 2.4% and 2.04% respectively. Trading volume rose to 233.3 million shares from 19.1 million shares in the previous session. Equity market turnover rose to 1.26 billion rupees from 673.7 million rupees in the previous session. The diversified financial sector was the top contributor to market turnover today, while the capital goods sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net buyers purchasing stocks worth 123.9 million rupees, while domestic investors were net sellers offloading shares worth 1.15 billion rupees. Up next is Udish and Jonas from Capital Alliance with some thoughts on the current status of the economy of the country in our next segment, Sri Lanka's Economic Outlook.
On key economic news last week, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka cut policy rates by 100 basis points or 1% on weak economic growth and lower than expected inflation levels, as the central bank indicated that a more accommodative monetary stance is what is suited for the current climate, given that inflation is below the 4 to 6% target level, and also the requirement to boost economic growth and economic activity being lackluster during the third quarter of 2023. However, the reduction in policy rates did not reflect in reduced treasury bond yields in the secondary market, as the market had previously anticipated priced in rate reduction already in the yields, and also the concerns surrounding the delays in receiving the IMF second tranche, and also no announcement on the external debt restructuring kept rates remain flat during the week. On the credit front, we saw private sector credit growth picking up again for the third consecutive month, where credit growth month on month increased roughly about 8 billion rupees for the month of August. On the external front, we saw September reserve position coming at $3.5 billion, which is a change compared to what it was reported in August. And this was achieved despite us seeing a reduction in terms of the foreign holding in government securities, reducing roughly by 5 billion rupees last week. The concern, however, on the external front is on oil prices and global commodity prices with the brewing crisis in the Middle East. However, as of now, we haven't seen too much of an increase in terms of oil prices, given the demand concerns in the global market, which has pushed down oil prices roughly by about $3 week on week to $87 a barrel. However, if there is intensification on the war front, we might see a sudden shock in terms of oil prices, which could hamper Sri Lanka's external improvement in the coming months. Overall, currency remains stable for the week at between 325 rupees to 330 rupees to the dollar. And the good news is that tourism from January to September crossed the 1 million mark, with a total contribution from September reported at $1.5 billion, which is a 67% year-on-year growth reported for the first 9 months of 2023.
Let's take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Welcome back. Sri Lanka's Security and Exchange Commission said that subsequent to the enactment of the new SEC Act No. 19 of 2021 and provisions, the SEC is collaborating with the Colombo Stock Exchange to introduce regulated short selling through a securities borrowing and lending mechanism. Meanwhile, in other news, the Sri Lankan Economic Summit 2023 is scheduled to be held next month, where plans have been made to discuss the way forward for the Sri Lankan economy. With that, let's take a look at more corporate news from the corporate sector for the day. Subsequent to the enactment of the new Securities and Exchange Commission Act of Sri Lanka, the SEC is presently working with the Colombo Stock Exchange to introduce regulated short selling through a securities borrowing and lending mechanism. In August of 2021, under the guidance of the SEC, a delivery versus payment or DVP settlement mechanism was successfully implemented at the CSE. SEC said that the introduction of regulated short selling through securities borrowing and lending provides an impetus for economic growth at this hour of need. The Commission said that the enhanced liquidity attributed by the introduction of regulated short selling through securities borrowing and lending would aid in developing the local capital market and the economy at large. The Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2023 is scheduled to be held on November 28th and 29th at the Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo. This year's summit will be conducted under the theme Sustained Reform, Accelerate Growth, and will explore crucial facets of the Sri Lankan economy and its path towards stability and prosperity. In other news, Citizens Development Business Finance PLC launched the eShift Concept Centre. This was rooted in a collaboration agreement CDB signed with CodeGen International Private Limited. As part of its sustainability agenda, CDB, together with global and local partners, initiated the Haritha Coalition, designed to promote EVs and solar energy solutions to Sri Lanka. That's all the news I have for you for this evening. Join us again tomorrow for on the same channel for more up-to-date news. For now, this is Jonathan Benedict reminding you to keep an eye out for conjunctivitis or pink eye by regularly washing your hands and keeping yourself sterile. Good night. Stay blessed.